Hi everyone, this is David from Naroth Audio. Over the years, we've poured our passion into creating libraries that inspire and elevate. And today, I'm thrilled to introduce a new library that encapsulates that dedication to the craft, Guitar Odyssey. At Naroth Audio, we've always believed that sound and music are more than just notes. They're a journey. And we've been hard at work at crafting our new Odyssey engine, designed to be the perfect home for our samples and foster creativity. In this video, we're going to dive deep into the intricacies of Guitar Odyssey as well as the Odyssey engine, guiding you on how to harness its potential. To kick things off, let's discuss what sets the Odyssey engine apart from other sample libraries. Central to the Odyssey engine is our sophisticated modulation system, which offers 17 diverse modulation sources. To modulate any parameter, just click on its corresponding modulation icon and choose the source to route it to. From this point, you can easily adjust the modulation range like so. And if you'd like, there's also the option to invert the signal. Now let's delve into the modulation sources and how to control them. Everything you need is accessible from the modulation page. Firstly, there are two LFOs available, each with a variety of selectable shapes. Want to sync the rate with your tempo? No problem, you can do that right here. The strength knob refines the LFO signal bandwidth, paving the way for intricate and imaginative modulations. I've loaded up the preset called Are We Alone to showcase how the LFO can be used to create some interesting movements and modulation. If we go to the modulation tab, we can see a few things happening. We have LFO 1 controlling the rate of LFO 2, creating a pretty chaotic signal. This has then been routed to control the plate verb decay and the faces rate of layer 1, creating an eerie and chaotic effect. Next up, we have our two arpeggiators. These come with editing controls that make sequence shaping a breeze. A handy slider lets you expand or condense a sequence. With this, you have two modes which can be toggled here: linear and exponential. Want to maintain a stable sequence in parts? Easily link the steps and adjust them together. And just like the LFOs, the arpeggiator's strength can be adjusted for more nuanced effects. Basic controls, including setting the step rate and defining the number of steps in the sequence, are housed in this section. To invert the sequence table, simply click here. The ARP also comes with a catalog of presets that you can access via this button here. Once clicked, a new dialog at the bottom will appear. Here you can access the different categories and presets to choose from. To exit, either click in the grayed areas of the user interface or click the exit button. So I've loaded up another preset that showcases some creative uses of the ARP modulation. In the preset Delivering Justice, we have ARP1 changing the sample position for each layer, and ARP2 is acting as a gate for layer 1 and an autopanner for layer 3. This feature-rich pad provides you with a mix of creative avenues. At its core, you can use the XY pad in its traditional form, moving the cursor manually, but for those eager to infuse dynamism into their sound, there's the option to record unique patterns. But before we plunge into recording, a couple of preparatory steps are in order. The rate sets the pattern's length, so you want to adjust that initially. But rest assured, even after you've laid down your pattern, it's possible to tweak its length again. Next in line is setting the time signature. For our purposes today, we'll stick with the classic 4/4. Initiating the recording is as easy as hitting the record button. You'll be ushered in with a 4-beat count, post which you're free to glide the cursor around as you please. Once your pattern wraps up, it automatically transitions into playback mode. To halt your pattern, a simple click on the pause button does the trick, and another click sets it back into motion. As I mentioned earlier, the flexibility is yours to either adjust the pattern's length or modify its speed using the rate and speed menus here. Want to bring in a twist? The phase control lets you rotate the pattern 360 degrees. These handy sliders positioned atop and alongside the XY pad enable you to offset the pattern using the central X as a reference marker. The settings icon also unveils a few more features. Here you can rotate the pattern with more precision, and if your recording wasn't flawless at the start or finish, the crossfade ensures a seamless blend. Furthermore, you can decide whether the XY pad re-triggers with every new note here or not. And if you've given your XY pad a specific function, you can christen both the X and Y pad axes with a name. To do so, simply click on the name of the region of either the X or Y, type in your name in capital letters, and click Save. And if you're in the mood for some inspiration, a rich catalog of presets awaits your exploration. So now let's explore some presets utilizing the XY pad and see how it can be deployed to craft evolving sonic landscapes. The preset Dreamwalker beautifully illustrates the XY pad's capabilities. Here we have a square XY pad loaded in. The X-axis has been routed to the volume of layer 4, meanwhile the Y-axis has a dual role. It's influencing both the filter of layer 1 and the volume of layer 2. The result of this configuration is a soundscape that oscillates between dark and light cinematic textures. This cyclical movement, shaped by the XY pad, gives Dreamwalker its ever-evolving dreamlike embrace. Moving on to our next preset, Oxygen Tank, we're introduced to a different facet of the XY pad's versatility. In this configuration, the XY pad is set to run manually, allowing you to dial in the sound yourself. With the Y-axis tied to the reverb and the X-axis connected to layer 2, you're presented with a spectrum of possibilities. As you maneuver the XY pad cursor, you can shift between the resonating depths of the reverb and the nuanced textures of layer 2. This interplay allows for a broad spectrum of aural experiences. But you can easily automate this yourself to create an evolving sound, or you can effortlessly create your own pattern to do it for you. Next, let's take a look at the capabilities of the Multi-Stage Envelope Generator, or MSEG. To demonstrate its versatility, I've prepared a sound and linked the reverb mix directly to the MSEG. The MSEG is structured into 8 unique blocks, and within each block, there's a range of options you can play with. To set a shape for a block, simply click on it and choose from the shapes available in the section below. Adjusting the height is pretty straightforward with the slider right here. And if you want to determine the duration of each block, there's a menu where you can select the desired length. If you're looking to change the direction of a shape, the settings icon allows you to opt for either a vertical or horizontal flip. Managing the number of active blocks is also a breeze. Just click on the power icons to toggle them on or off. The MSEG isn't just about customization. It also boasts diverse modes of operation. In the cycle mode, the cursor travels through the envelope and then gracefully reverses its path. In the loop mode, the cursor reaches the end and then instantaneously returns to the start, beginning its journey anew. And for those who desire more control, there's a stop at marker mode. When chosen, a new slider emerges, empowering you to designate the precise point in the envelope where the cursor should come to a standstill. Let's preview a couple presets that show the MSEG in action. First on our list is 5-alarm fire. Within this preset, the MSEG has been configured with a 4/8 time signature and is operating in cycle mode. There's a 3-bar cycle at play, routed to the volume of layer 1. This ensures the arpeggiated sequence of the preset ebbs and flows with a smooth cadence, creating a dynamic soundscape. Transitioning to our next preset, Approaching Dawn, we find the MSEG operating in a different capacity. Here it's been set as a 4-bar one-shot with the Stop at Marker mode selected. The modulation is intricately woven into the filters of both layers 1 and 3. In addition, it's also influencing the rate of LFO1. The result? A palpable atmosphere of suspense. We're treated to an uncanny swell that accelerates in its tempo, crescendoing to a peak before gracefully descending. As you can see, both presets exemplify the power and versatility of the MSEG, showcasing how it can be harnessed to craft intricate and evocative sonic narratives. Moving on, let's explore the shaper. Unlike typical mod sources, the shaper relies on an input from another source. It's this input that dictates how swiftly our sequence cursor moves through it. Now, there are a few key controls to get familiar with. Firstly, we have our input source. This is where we determine what's driving our shaper. Next, we can adjust the number of steps in our sequence, offering flexibility in how intricate or simple we want our shape to be. In the center, you'll notice a noise knob. Turn this and you introduce a sprinkle of randomness to your shape. If you want to adjust the timing of the shape, use the phase slider to shift things around. And for those looking to flip things upside down, the settings icon lets you invert your sequence either vertically or horizontally. Of course, if you ever need inspiration, there's a whole catalog of presets waiting. For showcasing this mod source, we're going to change things up a little bit. Let's craft our very own preset using just the shaper. Next, let's talk about macros. These handy tools allow you to assign multiple sound parameters to one knob, making on-the-go adjustments a breeze. And if you're into real-time tweaks, you can assign each macro to its own control change, or CC, for live automation. Also, customization is simple. To rename a macro, click on its name, type in what you want, click Save, and you're good to go. Now, each macro can react in different ways. You have three options. You have concave, where it starts slow and then accelerates, linear, which is a straight and steady response, or convex, which begins fast and eases out. So now let's load up a couple of presets. First off, we have Radioactive Wasteland. Here we're introduced to a trio of intriguing macros: isotopes, chaos, and distance. The isotopes macro is intricately tied to the filter of layer 1. By adjusting this, you can effectively open up the sound, allowing it to breathe and evolve. On the other hand, the chaos macro is connected to the filter of layer 3. Manipulating this macro also opens up the sound, introducing a different dimension of sonic texture. Lastly, the distance macro plays a crucial role in setting the auditory perspective. It regulates the master filter, and by tweaking it, you can simulate a sound that feels more distant or closer, depending on what your needs are. In essence, these macros, when used in harmony, allow you to craft an atmospheric soundscape that feels both immersive and expansive. Transitioning to our next highlight, Milky Way. This preset introduces us to three distinct macros: nebula, low pass, and high pass. Engaging the nebula macro brings layer 2 to life, enveloping us in an ambience that's akin to drifting weightlessly through the cosmic realms. Meanwhile, the low-pass and high-pass macros serve as your sonic sculpting tools, letting you mold and refine the sound to your liking. Together, these macros craft an auditory journey that's both expansive and intimate. Next up, we have our velocity modulation. How this works is pretty simple. It gauges the velocity of each note that you play in and tweaks the linked parameters accordingly. To help you customize this, we've provided some tools. You have two modes in which to work: linear, which gives you a single line or curve, or shelf, which gives you two opposing curves that blend into each other. There's also a special curve knob. In linear mode, it allows you to tilt the curve either convex or concave, whereas in shelf mode, this knob will seamlessly change the curves from convex to concave and vice versa. Lastly, you have your velocity range controls. With the min and max knobs, you can easily define the velocity range. Now let's take a listen to how that might sound by linking up the velocity to a distortion module. In the final section of our modulation page, you'll find our last two mod sources, Random Chaos and Keytracking. For Random Chaos, think of this as your dial for controlled unpredictability. At a lower setting, the randomness is subtle and more controlled. As you turn it up though, the chaos intensifies, making the modulation more erratic and frequent. For Keytracking modulation, it's all about dynamic adaptability. When you play a note, it gauges the note value and aligns the associated parameters to a spot within the given range. For instance, hit a C4 and any synced parameter will position itself right in the middle of its range. You also have two trigger modes for this. In last mode, every note you play actively shifts the modulation source value sent to the tied parameters. In first mode, only the very first note played influences the modulation. It remains unchanged until you've released all notes. Upon playing again, the modulation adapts. So let's experiment with modulating a sound parameter. We'll first explore using the chaos feature and then dive into key tracking. To access the preset, simply click on the preset name up at the top. On the preset page, you can access all available presets. Use the slider to smoothly scroll through the list. If you want to preview a preset before loading it, activate this button. When activated, tapping any preset lets you listen to an audio sample of it, and tapping it again loads the preset. Use the star buttons to tag a preset as a favorite. And this leads us to the tags feature. When a tag is activated, the preset list will only display those matching the chosen criteria. Alternatively, use Command-click or Control-click on Windows to exclude presets that match. The sound selection page operates in the same manner. The sole distinction between the sound and preset pages is the presence of a clear button on the sound page. This clears the source for the selected layer. At the bottom of the Odyssey engine, you'll find where you can access your layers. If you want to switch between having 2 or 4 layers, there's a button up here at the top. Just give that a click to toggle the amount. Now, each layer you see here has a set of identical controls. For the sound source, just click on its name. This opens up the sound page where you can switch out sources. If you're looking to quickly jump to another sound, use the arrows right next to it. Over here, you have the controls to tweak the layer's volume, pan, and tuning. In the middle, you can choose to mute or solo your layer. And if you're trying to copy settings from one layer to another, just hit this button and select an option. When you're ready, click the copy-paste button on another layer where you want those settings. You'll see that the clipboard is now filled and ready to paste. This center option allows you to invert your sound source. But please note that the waveform display will not be inverted, as this is a limitation inside of Kontakt itself. Next to that, you will find your shuffle button. Click this to randomize the layer's sound source easily. Lastly, right in the middle of the layers panel, you can dive into the controls for your macros and the XY pad. The edit page is your gateway to modifying the samples within each layer. Here you can adjust amp, pitch, and filter envelopes by clicking through the tabs. Notably, the filter envelope offers a selection of over 50 distinct filter types accessed here. This little button here toggles a global ADSR mode, synchronizing all envelope editing functionalities. This is incredibly useful when you're looking to have one uniform ADSR for the instrument. And directly below, you'll find controls for the layer's key range, allowing you to specify which keys will trigger this layer. By overlapping sounds and designating specific key ranges, you can craft dynamic patches where each sample finds its moment in the spotlight. In this section, you'll find all of your sample playback controls. First off, we have the sample display, where you can set the sample start. Each sample can also have up to 8 voices with a detune knob to blend them seamlessly. Here you can adjust the velocity sensitivity for the layer, adjust the stereo image, and set the pitch bend range. The next tab is where you can control the sample range. Let's dive into the cycle feature. Typically, when a note is played, the sample begins from the position indicated by the yellow marker above. However, with cycle activated, a dynamic moving marker appears, and notes will initiate from wherever this marker stands. You can modulate its speed, which aligns with your DAW's tempo. Moreover, this option allows the sample to re-trigger from the primary marker when new notes are played in. This becomes especially handy in conjunction with the motion or granular engines. The direction arrows dictate the marker's movement upon re-triggering. Next, you have your sample range controls. The controls set the space for the cycle and grains to move around in. Each side has a mode that can be set as well. Bounce mode will have the cycle or grains bounce off the edge and change direction. Stop will hold the cycle and grains in place when reached. And loop will send the cycle and grains to the other side to continue on again. The range also has a sync mode, which will allow you to set a duration for the cycle and grains to move through the range. When activated, you can click here to change the duration. Also, you can lock the main marker to either side of the range by using these controls here, and click here once it's locked to unlock it. The edit page, we come to the Granular module. This module functions as a rapid note generator, producing a seamless and ethereal combination of miniature sample fragments. Within this module are several controls. Offset determines the random grain's position within the sample relative to the markers. Frequency regulates the speed at which new grains will emerge. Size dictates the dimension of each grain. Volume modulates the random volume variation for each grain. Pitch adjusts the random pitch fluctuation ranging from -1 to +1 semitones. And width controls the random panning of each grain within the stereo field. The fade section here controls the attack and release of each grain, allowing for a smoother sound. In addition, the Granular module offers 2 distinct modes. In scan mode, each note independently traverses through the sample. This is ideal for continuously evolving soundscapes. In cursor mode, all grains adhere to the marker's positions, ensuring all notes play consistent sample grain locations. This mode shines when you aim for a collective evolution of sounds, maintaining harmony and cohesion among them. Each mode's going to have its own advantages, catering to specific sound design aspirations. Each of the 4 layers has its own effects rack, equipped with 8 individual slots. Within these slots, you have access to a staggering 33 effects modules. The design of the effects rack is all about giving you flexibility and freedom. These slots are also hot swappable, allowing you to reconfigure them in any sequence you desire. Now let's delve a little deeper into the controls available for each slot. You'll notice a dedicated power control on each one. Simply toggle this control to activate or deactivate a specific effect. If you want to rearrange the effects in your chain, click on this marker and drag to change its position. This drag and drop mechanism makes rearranging your effects chain a breeze. Choosing or switching out an effect is just as straightforward. To do this, you can either click on the effect's name or its representative icon. Once you do, a new window comes into view, showcasing all the available effects types for you to choose from. And once you've loaded up an effect, there's more to explore. Navigate to the Effects subtype menu and you'll be presented with a list of effects that fall under that specific category. Next, let's explore the extensive effects this library provides. The Distortion module features 8 distinct distortion types. We have 5 unique reverb effects, including an impulse response reverb with a mix of 28 traditional and creative responses. 6 modulation effects ranging from chorus and phasers to flangers. A graphic EQ equipped with a dedicated XY pad for precise adjustments. 5 distinct amp simulations ranging from a light fuzz to a high-octane power. A robust delay effect featuring the ability to have ping-pong stereo panning. A powerful filter incorporating a broad range of up to 50 filter types. And last but not least, 7 dynamic effects giving you the ability to control your sound. Inside the Odyssey engine, you have access to 2 unique motion engines. To activate motion on your layer, simply click the power button between the 2 motion tabs. First off, we have our sequencer. There are a few different controls that make editing your sequence easy. We have the sequencer here where you can draw in your rhythms. A convenient slider allows you to broaden or narrow the sequence. Here you can switch between 2 modes, linear and exponential. You can link the steps with ease and modify them simultaneously by activating these buttons. You can also set each step to have its own tuning by clicking and selecting from the drop-down menu. To reverse the sequence table, just click this here. This area contains fundamental settings, like determining the step rate and specifying the sequence's step count. The sequencer is also equipped with a range of presets which can be accessed via this button. Both the sequencer and the circuit engine share several common controls. First off, we have the playback mode. You have a few choices of how each step is affected by the notes held. All mode plays all notes simultaneously. Free mode sets each note to go through the engine independently of other notes. Up plays the lowest held note, incrementing through to the highest held note. Down does the opposite, starting at the top and going to the lowest. Up down and down up are combinations of both. As played records the order you played them in. And random is just that, a random sequence of the held notes. You also have a re-trigger button, which will restart the sequence on each new note. Normally, the sequence will keep looping through, but with the one-shot button activated, it will only play through once. These directional arrows located here will shift the sequence or circuit one step in either direction. And this MIDI region allows you to drag and drop the rhythm into your DAW. Unlike the sequencer, the circuit allows for variable note durations, repetitions, and gating. You have up to 16 steps on the circuit, which can be turned on or off by clicking on the power buttons. At the top here we have the gate slider, which adjusts the gate as a percentage ranging from 1 to 100% of the current step's note value. Next we have your tuning for the step. Below that, we have our repetitions. By sliding this, you can set the circuit to repeat itself up to 4 times before moving on to the next circuit. Below that is where you can set the step's rate. Simply click on the circuit's note and select a duration from the lower note box. You can also choose to set a circuit as a rest if you wish. Lastly, you have your velocity slider. Similar to the sequencer, you can also choose from a variety of presets here. The master page houses a few global controls as well as its own 7-slot effects rack. First off, we have our master gain, and directly beneath it you'll find the level meter. Following this is a toggle for selecting between polyphonic and monophonic playing modes. Further down, there's the round-robin reset key. This allows you to designate a specific keyboard note to reset the round-robin counter for any sources that are using round-robins. Next is the dynamic CC control, where you can assign a control change to manage the dynamic sound sources. Wrapping it up are the X and Y axis CC controls. In this section, you can determine which control changes will influence the X or Y axis. Now let's talk about the few ways you can save presets. If you've loaded up a preset and want to save changes made to it, simply choose Overwrite. And if you want to save it as its own preset, click Save As. A new page will open giving you the option to name the preset, tag it, as well as optionally write the author's name and give it a description. If you've accidentally saved a preset and created a typo or you want to change the name, you can select this option to rename it. You can also choose to delete a user preset. This can't be undone, so please be cautious. So that wraps up our walkthrough for Guitar Odyssey and the Odyssey engine. We're excited to be releasing this finally after so much time, and even more excited to continue building more libraries to fuel the music that you create. So thanks for taking the time to watch. Don't forget to like this video, and if you're not already a subscriber, your support matters so much to us. So see you next time.